Talking with the experts.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts, where we believe that success is a journey, and every journey is easier with help from friends. That's why we bring you top-notch experts and real business heroes eager to share their lessons from the road to success. We delve into new topics each week: effective marketing strategies, innovative problem-solving, financial planning, and team building. We tackle everything you need to know to grow your business and keep it thriving. Whether you dream about launching your first startup or a business veteran looking to shake things up, we've got you covered. With each episode, you'll gain knowledge, boost your confidence, and be inspired to take action. So, grab a coffee, make yourself comfortable, and join our exciting journey. You're not alone in this. We're here, guiding you, cheering for you, and celebrating each milestone. Let's turn your business dreams into reality, starting today. Here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Talking with the experts.
In episode 500, Professor Peter Alexander shares with us the power of plants in an office environment.
Well, so basically, there's been a lot of research done, clinical research done on the benefits of plants in buildings. And we're talking live plants, because you'll see plastic, artificial ones, and those aren't the same. So with a live plant, what the research has shown is that not only are the employees let's say in an office environment where they have a reasonable number of plants, it doesn't have to be a jungle there. It just has to have strategically placed plants. And with healthy plants in there, not only will the employees be healthier because they'll be calling in sick anywhere from 10 to 20% less, but they're also more collaborative and actually calmer.
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is all about business, by business owners, for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. Today my guest is Professor Peter Alexander, and we're going to be talking about how we shouldn't let stress get the better of us. Now, Peter has a huge career. He's had the privilege to work in a variety of positions, including sales, marketing. He's a college professor, and he's a small business owner. And each role has one thing in common: high stress. And we, as entrepreneurs and people in business, we all know about the stress. So he was at the point where he was diagnosed with stress-related diabetes and ended up in hospital with a severe case of diabetic keto, whatever it is. I'm not really sure what that word is, but I'm sure he'll explain it to me. Now, Peter's also the president of the greatest interior landscaping company in the San Francisco Bay Area, Office Plants by Everything Grows. And in addition, he serves as an adjunct college professor, where he helps inspire students to develop and apply key concepts of marketing specifically to their area of interest. He is also a professional speaker, a best-selling author on reducing stress in your everyday life. And lastly, but not least, he is a certified laughter yoga leader. Oh my goodness, I'll have to put you in touch with my friend in Canada. And an improv comedy cast member, supporting his community to laugh more and to stress less. Peter, thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm looking forward to learning how we can stress less.
Well, Rose, thank you so much for having me on your show, and I really appreciate your listeners' time as well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. How did you get involved in your business of plants?
Well, I was actually working for the second company in a row that got bought by its main competitor. And after that second company got bought, I thought to myself, I want to have a little bit more control over my future. And so I started kicking around whether or not I should look for a business. And I thought about starting my own business, and that can work for a lot of people, but there's a large ramp up typically if it's just you and you're trying to do everything. So I decided I was going to look for a business that was for sale, and I happened to come across this business, Everything Grows, and I started looking at it and thought, I like the idea of a business that isn't retail hours, because retail restaurant kind of hours, those are so long, and so I didn't want that. And this one was, for the most part, a Monday through Friday role. And so I decided, what, let's go ahead and take the dive, jump in. And after a year, I wanted to sell it so badly because it was so much work and so many things I didn't know. I learned a lot in that process. But then I was able to turn the tide, because it was a struggling business when I bought it, and it continued to struggle after I bought it. But it was about a year later that I started turning it around, and I'm grateful that it's continued to thrive. And we actually were not only able to survive, but rebound fully from COVID back when at one point in March of 2020, we lost 60% of our business in 30 days. And
Wow.
that was devastating. It was a torpedo that we would never have expected. And there were a lot of thoughts, from myself, my business partner, and our management staff, about whether or not we were going to be able to survive, because there was so many things that were in the unknown. But it took us 3 years to recover from that. But I'm glad that we did, and we're stronger than ever because of it.
Yeah, COVID devastated a lot of businesses, and yeah, it was a very sad state of affairs. But I think it's something that we, um, as much as it sounds weird, but I think it's something the world had to go through to get to where they are at the moment. I think it's taught us a lot of um, good things about communication, about
Mhm.
working together as a team, and I think it's brought people a lot closer together, because that they didn't have so much to rely on themselves as individuals. They had to work as a team to get stuff done, especially when the work from home situation, you had to learn how to work as a team to get stuff done, because you couldn't just do it on your own any longer.
That's absolutely true. I also have now much larger appreciation every time I go out to a restaurant, because when we didn't have restaurants to go to, and I remember the very first time I went into a restaurant after we started seeing them open back up, not just for takeout. And it was really, I had no idea that I missed the background, the noise, just being able to be in a restaurant and be part of the scenery. So there's a lot of things that really, if we think about it, that we've learned, and hopefully that we can take to make ourselves better because of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, we all know, when we were talking off camera before, about how plants can help with stress levels in an office environment.
Mhm.
How how does this work? I mean, people think that plants are just objects, but they're not really. They're living, breathing
Yes.
entities, and they do absorb a lot of stress, and they give off a lot of positive energy. So how does this work?
Well, so basically, there's been a lot of research done, clinical research done on the benefits of plants in buildings. And we're talking live plants, because you'll see plastic, artificial ones, and those aren't the same. So with a live plant, what the research has shown is that not only are the employees let's say in an office environment where they have a reasonable number of plants. It doesn't have to be a jungle there. It just has to have strategically placed plants. And with healthy plants in there, not only will the employees be healthier because they'll be calling in sick anywhere from 10 to 20% less, but they're also more collaborative and actually calmer in the office environment because the plants, the nature, what nature does to us is it has this calming process for us. So for anyone who's ever taken a walk in nature knows how soothing that can be. Well, if you bring some nature indoors like we do, and you take care of those plants and you make sure those plants are thriving, it can really have a positive effect on employee morale. And the interesting thing is when we see it very dramatically is when there's been times where, like, let's say during COVID, where, we had to pull out some plants because office people weren't going into the offices. But there's other times where companies might be financially struggling and they have to start cutting back on everything. And if they have to remove the plants, oh my gosh, you should see, because what we do, we don't charge a lot for it. So when a company decides that it's going to cut back and the plants are part of having to cut back, the morale just goes through the floor with employees saying, are you kidding me? You're removing the plants as well. And so there's a real connection. And, as we talked about earlier, what we always recommend for our clients is go ahead and name the plants, especially if you have a plant that's in your office. Because if you name the plant, you're more likely to say, oh, hello, Doris, or, hi, Steve. And you might talk to it and you get to know it and you actually have a relationship with the plant. And the plant actually likes you talking to it because it actually needs that transformation from our, making oxygen from what we're when we're talking to it.
Yeah,
So
there's a vibrational exchange, isn't there, between
yes.
plants and people. It's people think that it's like really odd, but I've read a lot of stuff on plants and certain plants to have in your house or your office that give they help with the air, and they help with taking away negativity. And
yes,
and I truly believe that plants, whether they're indoors or outdoors, have a healing benefit.
they do. And it's interesting as well that they pick up on the tension that they're exposed to. In fact, there was a study that was that IKEA actually funded on live plants. And what they did is it was a study where one plant, what people talked nice to it, and a second, the same kind of plant, they talked negatively to it. And I kid you not, after 1 month, you see the condition of which of these two plants, and one looked like it was dying, and the other one looked healthy and vibrant. It is amazing how the difference just are, what are our, when we talk about the energy that we all of us are energy, plants are energy. And so this exchange of energy that we give, if we can have a positive relationship with our plant, we're going to be more positive as well.
Yeah, it's like what they say, go hug a tree. And
yes,
and really, I love tree hugging. I'm not. People think that I'm weird when I go and hug a tree that I'm attracted to, and I think no, because hugging the tree gives I don't know. There's just something about the process, the tree giving off its vibration, especially if I'm not feeling, I'm 100% happy or whatever. I need a bit of cheering up. Go and hug a tree, and it works. I don't know why, but it does.
It does. And there's a lot of energy there. And interestingly, if you hug a tree will actually respond, but it takes about 7 days. And there will be something that it'll feel from you, but we feel it right away from the tree. So it's a wonderful process. I have a large cedar outside of my home, and actually when my mom passed away last year, she was a green thumb, and we spread some of her ashes there at the base of that tree. And so each time we have some like flowers or something that have run their gamut and they're not looking pretty anymore, we spread those over there with her ashes and stuff, and it's a nice connection.
It is very nice connection. Now, how can we, I guess, become less stressed in the workplace? Not necessarily using plants, but
Mhm.
I mean, I know that they're a really great tool for relieving stress. But what are other ways that we could do that in an office environment, especially when there's some sort of, there might be a toxic person in there
Mhm.
in the office, and they could be throwing heaps of stresses out. They might not even have to say anything. It's just
Mhm.
them, that their vibration is causing so much distress in the workplace. How can we, as ourselves, lessen that and give ourselves a barrier against this toxic behavior?
It's a very good question. Now, one of the things, depending on the particular stress relief technique, um, certain things will work for some people and certain things will work for other people. So, like, for example, something that might work for me, Rose, may not work for you, and vice versa. So, but there's ones that tend to be really good for most people. And one that is a great one in thinking about how you're describing this, I like to call it the don't try and control the uncontrollable. Because when we're faced with a stressful situation, as humans, we tend to stress about all aspects of that situation. Okay. And the problem is there's aspects of it that we can control, there's aspects of it that we cannot control. And when we only have a limited amount of mind share. And if we split our mind share between what we can't control and what we can control, it is wasted energy. So instead, let's say you have this toxic individual that's, ranting and raving. Okay. If you can imagine or you write down a list, just what, and you label it one side, what you can control, the other side, what you can't control, and list it out. And everything that you list out that you cannot control, what you want to do is mentally put that aside. Because the things that you cannot control, you cannot change. You can't do anything about it. So wasting energy on things that you cannot control is only going to burn your energy. But let's say that you have certain things you can control. So, for example, you've got this toxic individual. Something under your control is you could get up and walk away, or you could go to the restroom, whatever, or put headphones on so you don't hear that person. Whatever, any number of things that you could do. You list those out. And then what you do is you focus your mind share on focusing on everything there that's under your control. And if you can do that and put as much of your mind share on what you can control, your stress will go down, because we as humans, when we feel like we can control the situation and we can affect positive change, we are going to be less stressed. On the
Mm.
opposite side, the things we can't control, it's just going to stress us out because we're just thinking, I can't do anything about this, but I'm going to stress about it. It's wasted energy.
Yeah, a lot of us do. We do waste a lot of energy on things out of our control, like you have a a fight with your spouse or your children
Mhm.
or the next door neighbor, and we take all of that negative feelings and take it on board, and makes you have a shitty day at the end.
Yes, yes, it does. And another one that is a great one. So let's take it, where all of a sudden you feel like you've had you've taken on that negative energy from whatever person that you've been exposed to. One of the things that I like to do is a forgiveness exercise. And what you do, you don't have to say, hopefully for your spouse or your kids, you can have this conversation. But let's say you can't, for whatever reason, it's a strained relationship, or maybe they're far away, or you just don't want to talk to them specifically, whatever the reason is. A great way to remove some of that negative energy is to imagine that person standing in front of you. And what you do is you do a forgiveness exercise where you say to them, I forgive you. Please forgive me too. And it doesn't matter who was at fault, but what you're doing is you are forgiving each other in your mind. And if you can do that, and then you imagine that person, their reaction, either maybe they're nodding, they're smiling, maybe they're crying, you want to hug them, you shake their hand, whatever it is that is what in your mind is the appropriate reaction that they have. It is a wonderful thing to do where you can remove some of that negative energy off of your chest. Because when as you said so eloquently, when you carry that negative energy from someone, it's very hard to remove it the longer we keep it inside of us.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've got complex PTSD and
Mm.
from childhood trauma, and I find that when I have all these negative thoughts and stuff, I have to go out and do something, and I'll go and play with my plants and
Mm-hmm.
touch them, and
Mm-hmm.
pull the weeds out from the pots and all that, because it makes me feel better. I don't wear shoes all that often because I dislike shoes. So my feet are on the grass most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that that's really grounding, and
Yes.
I don't know, it's just the positivity of the earth underneath your feet, putting your hands in the dirt and getting under your nails, and putting your fingers and getting all muddy and stuff. And I don't know, there's something about the smell of the soil and the
Mm-hmm.
smell of everything. It's really soothing.
It is. And that what you're doing there is called earthing.
Mm,
So whether it's your feet are in the dirt, in grass, in the sand, whatever organic compound it is, that we make our connection. Going back to the energy that we talked about earlier, we're making that energetic connection with the earth.
yeah, yeah. And I find that if I'm stressed out for whatever reason, yeah, I go and do that, and it just makes me feel better. And especially at nighttime when all the smells are really, the cars aren't so prevalent in the area, and so you're not smelling the petrol fumes and or gas fumes in your case. And and when it's just just about dark, and you can smell the trees, like the eucalypts in Australia. You can smell the
Mhm.
eucalypts or the pine trees. They release their scent in the night air, and it's just so heavenly.
Oh, it is. It is. And it's just, so you've found obviously being with nature is a wonderful stress reliever for you. And that one
Mm.
works fine. It does for me too. I love going hiking. I love being out in nature. And when I'm able to hike and hike with friends, it's wonderful because I have both the social connection with people, but I also get the exercise and I get to connect with nature, and it's just a win-win-win for me, and it's one of my favorite stress relievers. And it's another one that for me, since you're talking about it being in the evening, one that my wife and I do every night is we both believe very strongly in gratitude. And so at the end of our evening, before we go to bed, I ask her, what is she grateful for? And she asks me, what am I grateful for? And rather than saying, oh, okay, grateful for, big things that might come up, it's more about the little things. And so it might be something as simple as I'm grateful for the nice dinner we had, or grateful for getting a phone call from one of the kids and having a conversation with them, or grateful that the cat is healthy. Grateful that I made it on time to an appointment, or just some simple things like that. And if you get into the habit of being grateful for even the little things, it's amazing the continuous positivity that can follow from that. Because I strongly believe that we attract like
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
And when we send out negative energy, so if we're complaining about everything, if we're finding fault or we're blaming others for everything, what we're going to attract back is that same energy. So we're going to attract back a lot of negativity. But if we attract out positive, or if we send out positive energy, so I always like, if I hit a green light as I'm driving, in my mind, I say thank you, because
I do
I
too
hit the green
sometimes.
light. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do
It's
sometimes, especially if I'm
it
in a hurry and I get a run of green lights. Thank you. Thank you.
exactly, because just the opposite happens. If you start stressing and you're running late and the first red light hits and you start getting all upset about that and mad about that, what's going to happen? You're going to hit another red light and then another red
Absolutely.
light. And the reason I believe this is totally true, the universe wants us to succeed.
Mm.
And but the universe does not know positive and negative. It only knows what you're saying out to it. So if you say, "Oh, not another red light," it says, "Oh, you want another red light?" So it's going to give you another red light. So it's so much better to try and have gratitude, as opposed to being negative and blaming others. Because it's the reality is, if we go back to, don't try and control the uncontrollable. When it comes to people, we can only control ourselves. Even if we're parents, those of us that are parents, we know at a certain point we cannot control our kids. So it just doesn't happen. And so we can only control ourselves, and we can choose to act and be gracious, have gratitude. Or if you want to attract the negativity, you can continue to blame others and be a narcissist.
That's it. Absolutely. Now, tell me a little bit about lighten your day, effective happiness.
You mean fast, easy, and effective stress relief for
That's it.
Yep, yeah. It's a best-selling book that I wrote for that's on Amazon, and it actually came about back in 2018. So um, uh, in 2008, I had a perfect storm of stressful activities going on in my life, including my dad passing away and needing all of his affairs taken care of. My mom had major surgery and didn't have enough insurance to cover what she needed to her care. I was running my landscaping business, and I had employees that needed my attention. My kids were small at that time and wanted my attention, and my marriage was heading for a divorce. Needless to say, a lot of things on my shoulders. And at a certain point, about 30 days before I was diagnosed, I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. And at first, I was in my mid 40s. I thought, this is fantastic. I hadn't lost weight since my early 20s. It was great. And I wasn't dieting. I wasn't doing any special exercise, and the pounds kept coming off. Well, after the 30th pound came off, I decided to have blood work done. And sure enough, they came back and they said, "Yeah, you've got stress-induced diabetes. No one else in your family has diabetes." So it's like, wow. But like so many entrepreneurs, I said, "Okay, fine, just give me the medicine, whatever I need. I don't have time for this. I've got too many things going on." And so for the next 10 years, I burned the candle at both ends. And then I ended up in the emergency room and an extended stay in the intensive care unit with, as you tried to say, diabetic ketoacidosis. And what
Thank you.
that basically what that basically means is my body was eating itself alive because of my stress. And what was crazy was that I had my phone and I was still doing work in the ICU. And finally, one of the nurses who was tending to me, at one point, she saw me just sitting there on my phone trying to do what I could on some work-related item. And she comes to me and she says, "You realize that's what put you in this hospital bed in the first place." And it was like this epiphany moment I had. And at that point, I mean, I knew my body was giving me all the warning signals before I got the diabetes and before I got the ketoacidosis. It was warning me left and right, and I just kept on ignoring it. And my friends and family told me, you're not looking great, etc. Yeah. I kept ignoring it. But it took a person who was basically a stranger and really didn't have anything to gain by telling me this. And somehow it finally landed, and I realized that I was trading my health for my career. And that is a really bad trade. So I stayed in the hospital for the next several days until they released me. And then I started focusing on myself for the first time in my health. And I started trying all these different tools and techniques. A lot of them worked, some of them didn't. And then what I found was that not only did my stress go down, my glucose numbers as a diabetic went down, my weight went down, and my energy level went way, way up. It was as if I had discovered the fountain of youth. And here's the craziest thing of all. So you see what I look like right now. In 2008, when I was diagnosed with stress-induced diabetes, if you saw a picture of me back then, with the exception of a little bit more gray hair in my head, I look younger today than I looked 15 years ago. And that's what stress does to us. It just burns us out. And so, my friends, my family said, "Oh, you ought to write, a book about what you did and stuff." And so I did, and it became a bestseller on Amazon. I wish I could say that I could retire from that. No, Amazon takes 99.9% of the profits from it. But at least I got the book out there for people to help them.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think that's really great. I noticed that when my stress levels get really high, I get bags under my eyes, and normally, I mean, I'm 63, and sometimes I notice it and sometimes I don't. But yeah, when my stress levels, it shows around my eyes. So yeah.
If have you ever been to any of your high school reunions?
No.
Oh, okay. So I've gone to a couple of those, and I've got my 40th coming up actually in a couple of months. And what's interesting is you can tell the people who aren't handling their stress very well. They look, first of all, as you're expecting to see 18-year-olds, and so you're not going to see that. But when you see people that look like hell, oh my gosh. And it's like, what happened to you? And it's just because people don't take care of themselves. And
Yeah.
and it's really, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize, when your body is giving you these early signs, and one of the most earliest signs that you can have is when you start getting shoulder and back stiffness. That's a early warning sign that your body's telling you you're probably too stressed.
Yeah, I get mine in my lower back and my hips. It's when I know that I carry all my stress in my back mainly.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. In fact, before my father he passed away in 2008. My back was locking up so badly that I could not sit or stand. The only thing I could do is lie on a hard floor. That was the only way my back wouldn't hurt me. And I was thinking, okay, I'll just get through this. I'll just get through this because I have other responsibilities to do. And in fact, I remember he was in hospice and I was lying on the floor next to his bed talking to him. What's wrong with that picture?
Let me see. Let me count the ways.
Exactly.
Peter, if you were to give somebody some words of wisdom, doesn't matter on what topic, what would they be?
First and foremost, it would be don't trade your health for your career or any major responsibility you have, because I believe that we have two most precious assets: time and our health. Time we can't get back. You burn it, you burn it. Health, there's no guarantee you can get it back. And so be wary of your health, because a lot of people have said, well, I'll get to it when I get to it. And the thing is I ask, okay, so remember the last time, think about a time, any time when you were really, really sick, let's say with the flu or something. And they think about that and they say, yeah, I remember. So did you feel like doing anything other than lying in bed? I'm saying, if they're honest, they'll say no. And I say, okay. So when you can do nothing but lie in bed, what good are you to your business, to your career, to your loved ones, etc.? And so that, it's your health is just too important. So don't trade it for something else. Take care of your health.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Pete, where can people find you if they want to know more about you or to work with you?
Sure. LinkedIn's probably the best place to find me. I'm very active on there. Professor Pete Alexander. There isn't any other Professor Pete's, so that's easy to find me. And reach out, connect with me. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody.
Wonderful. It has been an absolute pleasure to meet you and to have you on Talking with the Experts. Thank you so much for giving up your time today to be with me. And I look forward to continuing our conversation another time.
Well, wonderful, Rose. I thank you so much for having me on the show, and I really appreciate your listeners' time as well.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.